Hello, we have with us Air Marshal Suraj Kumar Jha, Air Officer in Charge Personnel of the Indian Air Force. We are now in the Air Headquarters and he will be speaking to us on the Agnipath scheme recently launched by the Defence Forces. Air Marshal Suraj Kumar Jha, welcome to this interview.
Thank you very much.
What is the response of the Agniveer initiative? You started registration on Friday.
Yeah.
So how much interest is shown by the youth for this project?
The interest shown by the youth for Agniveer Vayu has been overwhelming. In just over 4 days, we have received more than 1.5 lakh registration, and we still have more than a week to go. So we are expecting a very good response.
Actually, you have fixed a specific number of Agniveers for this year. I think it is 3,000.
It is 3,000, yes.
Can this number go up if the scheme is found successful?
This number will go up. We already have a roadmap in which next year we will be inducting 3,500 and 4,400 after that, and thereafter it will keep increasing.
So what transformation will it bring in the Indian Air Force, this project?
You know, through this Agniveer Vayu, as we will call our Agniveers, we are expecting a huge transformation. Number one, it will reduce the age profile of our main combatant force, the young people personnel below the officer rank. Number two, we are expecting to train them in a different manner, where we will utilize their inherent tech savvy traits. You know, the youth today is very familiar with computers, with smartphones, they are much more aware. We are going to utilize these skills of theirs. They are also more adaptive to modern technology. So we will utilize these inherent traits and train them, channelize them in a certain manner for overall advantage of the Indian Air Force.
Actually, Kargil war is being quoted during the discussions of this Agnipath project. You yourself fought the Kargil war, I know.
Yes.
So what issues were identified after the Kargil war?
You know, I was one of the frontline pilots during Kargil war, and all due credit must go to my people and all people in the Indian Air Force, that for people like us who were fighting the war, no shortcomings was ever made to be felt. We were flying 24/7, our readiness times were very short, so there was no shortcoming in the field at that time. However, the Kargil Review Committee took a much broader view of the entire Kargil episode or the Kargil conflict, and one of their key recommendations was that there was a requirement to reduce the age profile of people in the armed forces, and Agnipath has emanated from that observation.
I heard that the discussion started in 1984 about such a scheme. So why did it take so long to launch the scheme?
You would have realized in the last few weeks, ever since the scheme came out in the open, that this is a revolutionary idea. You know, it is breaking a lot of old perceptions. The divided opinion in the earlier days also showed that how the minds were fixed onto a certain pattern. After all, the armed forces in India and neighborhood have operated on a certain pattern for so many years, for hundreds of years, you know. So any such revolutionary change has to go through very deep analysis and an opportune moment when the environment is right. Only then such schemes can be launched, you know. So while it has been in the making for over 30 years in some form or the other, but the form itself got crystallized in the last few months that 4 years and the numbers, and accordingly the scheme was launched.
Even though this scheme is being discussed for more than 30 years, there is a criticism that it was brought without much consultation or discussions. So many opposition parties were saying like that. So how will you counter that?
No, not at all. I do not subscribe to this view, because there were a series of consultations. Now, you know, in a democracy, and in a big democracy like India, it may not be possible to consult each and every person or open such schemes to general public comment, because this is something that the public may not have seen, and they may view it in a very different manner. However, internally and with all the stakeholders at multiple level, including the affected people, the decision makers, the people who have to operate in the field, we have had a series of consultations. So I don't think we missed out on any such thing.
But how do you see the protests which happened after launching the scheme?
I have maintained that much of the protest was arising either out of ignorance or was manipulated, or because of certain vested interest. You would also have seen that the protests died down as quickly as they came up. Once the scheme was understood in its entirety, most of the people have accepted it, and the response to our opening the registration is the proof.
Actually, the main concern expressed during these protests was that after 4 years, these Agniveers have to go out of the service. Why you limited the number to 4 years?
You know, 4 years is a very good period. We are taking between 17 and a half to 21. It means that the oldest person normally would go out at 25. Only for this year we have made it 23, which means the oldest person to go out will be at 27. If you see the employment opportunities in other fields, both organized, unorganized, in government, private sector, there are a lot of opportunities between 25 to 30 years of age. The more we would have delayed, the longer the initial tenure would have been, many of these avenues would not be available to the young people at that time. So, and this is a long enough period to provide, to give a good training, to give him good experience, and for him to assess how does he like the armed forces, whether he wants to make it his permanent career choice or not.
So what will be the process to retain 25% of Agniveers in the forces after they complete their service?
The process is a very engaged process and an absolutely transparent process. In the Indian Air Force, we are contemplating at least 3 exams, common exams. One is the entry level, one is at the end of first 6 months after his initial training, and one is around 3.5 to quarter to 4 years, where, so these 3 exams will form one part. Then we will also be giving him training after every year, or maybe even earlier if he is quick on the uptake. He will also be undergoing certain courses which will grant him credits for his enhancing his educational qualification. He will be involved in marksmanship, in other soldierly activities, his health, his physical fitness, his discipline record, and his assessment by the people who are seeing him work day in, day out. All this will be on a common networked platform. And our assurance is that each Agniveer Vayu will get a level playing field to prove himself. And based on this, we will keep the 25% best suited to IF requirements.
Could you elaborate more on what kind of training they will get during these 4 years?
You know, the training are of different types. Some part of the training is building his personality, his language, his communication, his dress, the way he walks, the way he talks, the way he conducts himself, discipline. Uh, then there are certain things which are basic soldierly traits, survival skill, firefighting skill, marksmanship, handling of weapons, and parade marching, physical fitness, punctuality, and all that. And then there will be skill training. You know, the skill training will depend upon his aptitude, depend upon his qualifications, and it will be in many fields. Air Force is a very big organization. Our spectrum is extremely wide. So, depending upon his interest and the skills that he has, we will be giving him skill-based training in that domain, that area.
Okay. What kind of jobs he can expect, sir, after coming?
Oh, any job. You name a job, almost any kind of job, from logistic chain management to being electrical and power storage specialist,
Yeah.
to accounting services, to maintaining aircraft, to operations, jobs in operations, in the aviation sector, in meteorology,
Yeah.
and so many things it can.
Actually, Agniveer would form a distinct rank that is
Yes.
different from the existing ranking system in the defense forces. So, I think there will be a separate insignia for them having a different rank. So, why is their rank different from others?
You know, even today, we have AC, and then a LAC, then a corporal, then a sergeant, then a JWO, warrant officer. So, all these are different ranks. Even amongst officers, there are different ranks.
Yeah.
So, since Agniveer will form a distinct class of people, distinct section of combatants, they will have a separate insignia.
We were hearing about one rank, one pension earlier, but the main criticism is that this will go against that theory.
Yes, you know, since this is part of the terms and conditions, and the Agniveers are not eligible for pension, so obviously they will not fall in the gamut of one rank, one pension.
So, there is a concern that the short service personnel may affect the combat preparation of the defense forces. So, how will you counter that criticism?
You know, this is again a misconception. As has been brought out time and time again, that ultimately we will be retaining people from among the Agniveer. And there will be enough people. In the case of Indian Air Force, 70 to 75% of people who will be the experienced people. You know, because in the Air Force, as you are aware, after Agniveer 4-year tenure, he will serve for minimum 20 years more, those who we retain. And thereafter, depending upon his choice and the rank that he attains, he will continue up to superannuation. So, we will always have a very good mix of experience and youth, and a very good mix of experienced youth, experience to mentor, experience to train, experience to guide, along with youth to take all the risks, to take to work without any physical or mental limitations. I think that will be a very good mix, very good mix.
There is also a fear that it may affect the education of youngsters.
You know, I mean, in fact, the concerned departments and ministries of Government of India have already announced that the training that the services will impart will form up to 50% of his credit for the next higher educational qualification. You know, so if he is a 10+2, this will help towards his diploma or even a degree. So I don't think this will happen.
So, the Navy is inducting girls as sailors under this project. So, what are the chances in Air Force for young girls?
the chances in the Air Force for young girl is 100%. We will also induct, but this time we are not inducting. We have a detailed study ongoing, and the study is almost complete, and it will be presented to the higher leadership very soon. We will examine that study, examine the recommendations, and once we are fully prepared to induct young 17, 18 to 21-year-old girls, they are our daughters after all, and we have to be absolutely certain that we take care of them, we enhance them in all manners possible, and then we will be inducting them. We have a large number of women officers, and they have been doing extremely well. They are now flying even fighter aircraft, as you must be aware. So we will very soon be inducting women in Agniveer.
Air Marshal, the average age of Army is now 32.
Yeah.
In the Air Force, what is the status now, and how will this Agniveer project reduce that age?
You know, unlike Army, we retain our people for a little longer period. So our average age is close to 34 years, 34 to 35 years. Sometime it depends year on year, depending on how many people join, how many people leave. So it varies between 34 to 36. We will also be bringing it down to 26, 25 to 26.
So apart from this Agnipath scheme, what are the modernization projects which is being done by the Air Force?
See, modernization is an ongoing process, you know. As the technologies emerge, the threats emerge, the capabilities emerge, we will continue modernizing. A few areas that come to my mind offhand is space is one area, cyber is one domain, encryption of communication is another domain, the surveillance, persistent surveillance is another domain, precision weapons, networking, and all these are part of the modernization.
If you can answer how the Rafales have also brought in more energy to Air Force.
You know, Rafales have brought in a fresh reassurance that we have the cutting edge in the area of operation, you know, against our adversaries. We have the finest weapon, flown by the finest pilots, maintained by the finest set of crew, and I think it should reassure our country that the borders are safe, the skies are safe and secure.
Air Marshal Suraj Kumar Jha, thank you very much, and it was a pleasure hearing you.
Same here, most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
ಇದು ಏಷ್ಯಾನೆಟ್ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಿ.
ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಏಷ್ಯಾನೆಟ್ ಸುವರ್ಣ ನ್ಯೂಸ್.